I'm Nick Chambers, STS Component Solutions, and we're going to go over receiving inspection, talk a little bit about how to simplify, standardize, and automate some of your processes on a day-to-day basis and bring in some quality factors that you're going to be able to use and report on. And we don't get to use a clicker. So I started my career at Hub Air down in South Florida back in the late 90s. That was my first introduction into quantum control, a system with a conversion from quick aviation into quantum. Later on, went on to Tradewinds Aircraft Services, managed another conversion from airpacks to quantum. And it was during that time that the philosophy that I wanted to really take and present to our owners and our people was make sure you build all of your processes around your ERP. Whether it's quantum or any other ERP, you have to make sure that you build your processes around the ERP instead of trying to put that square peg into the round hole. And that really has seemed to work very well for us over the years. At Tradewinds, we just continue adding new modules as quantum release their enhancements as they have over the years, and it really has enhanced our business processes as a whole. STS, we started in 2008. We bought out Tradewinds Aircraft, and we continued to streamline and automate using quantum and their enhancements to continue building our team. We started developing departmental web-based solutions a couple of years ago in order to really take the next level of interaction with quantum and get into people's hands and use it on a more global basis. Started utilizing integrated crystal reports with Event Manager, let quantum start driving your processes. Implemented the customer portal, and currently, this is going to take a few minutes, but this is all the modules that we're currently using on a daily basis at STS. The only thing we're not really using is the work order module and the aircraft maintenance module. Some of them that aren't actual modules, we're doing EDI via Spec 2000 as well as via Aero Exchange. Happy to announce Aero Exchange is going to be adding that functionality back on for everybody if you're interested in that. We are using the customer portal and Starship integration that's been out for a few years as well. In this particular session, we're going to learn some of the basic elements of the receiving module. We're going to demonstrate how to use the receiving module to standardize the receiving process for virtually all transactions. Doesn't matter if it's a purchase order, repair order, sales order, you can still use a centralized, standardized method for receiving the material to help out your guys in the warehouse. We're going to explore utilizing user-defined fields along with some screen scripter and screen designer to capture data for reports and automated quality functions and metrics. We'll touch on some additional features, such as reporting, Event Manager, and document imaging along the way. For those of you that are familiar with the receiving module, we're going to touch on how to create an unknown receipt, discuss how to use quantum to help manage non-conformances, and we're going to look at what we use at STS. We call it our receiving scheduler, something that allows us to prioritize receiving on a daily basis. Look at some of the advanced automation that we use to automate internal communication. So in the receiving module, some of the things you can do is simplify the creation of receiving orders for any type of transaction. Standardize the inspection by utilizing a customized receiving inspection screen. Customize it for your business. We can automate quality reporting based on data elements that we're capturing during that process. There's no need to have to go back and read through manual, handwritten stuff in order to develop your quality metrics. So the flow that we use is we create a pre-receiving. So every day as items hit our dock, our guys go out and they create receiving orders for every item that comes in. That's going to allow us to then flag all of the items that are on that packing slip and put them onto that particular receiving order. At that point in time, we'll use our receiving scheduler to prioritize all the receivers that just got created. So at that point, nothing's been inspected, but everything's going to be laid out on conveyors, waiting to go through that process. So now the guys can sort everything on these conveyors based on the priorities, whether it's sold, whether it's going to stock, whether it's something that's going to be picked up in 2 hours by a courier or shipping out at the end of the day by FedEx. That's just how we chose to have our priorities done. From there, that pushes everything through your receiving inspection. There, they're going to verify the requirements based on purchase order, based on sales order requirements, enter in all the item details, all of your trace details, tag details, manufacturer dates, lot numbers, etc. Scan all of the paperwork and attach pictures if needed at that point in time during the receiving process. Finally, they're going to be able to do the final disposition. Maybe they're going to receive it and go to stock. Maybe they're going to receive it, take it on through outbound inspection and for sales orders. Or maybe there's an issue with it. At that point, they're going to receive it into what we call our QC hold. They can document the findings. Why is it on hold? What's wrong with the unit? Was it damaged? Are you short? You don't have the right quantities? Do you have missing paperwork? Whatever it might be, they're going to be able to document. And we'll go into some of the reason codes that you can use during that process in order to build your metrics. So for the pre-receiving, this is looking at how to create receivers for purchase orders and repair orders. So your basic window, when you say I want to add a receiver, it's going to pop that up. The first thing you want to do is select your order type. So here we have it chosen for a PO. We're going to enter in the order number, so you can type it in. You can look at it from the drop-down box there and see all open orders. After you select your order number, just confirm your details. Confirm that that is the right order number coming from the right vendor. If it was a sales order, you would go along the same process. Select your order type as a sales order, entering your order number. If anybody does exchanges, the exchange core coming back, that's where we use this function. And a lot of times, we don't know what the sales order was that actually went out on. So when we click on that drop-down window, we can actually do a find based on the customer's PO, because a lot of times when your customer sends the core back, they're just going to reference their order number, not yours. So we'll search for the customer's PO number, and when we find it, when we double-click it, it'll go in here and populate it and link us back to the sales order that we need to receive. That'll take us into our main receiving order. So just like every other module in Quantum, we're going to have our header already created, and now it's waiting on the details to add onto that receiving order. So we're going to click on the Add button, and that's going to bring up all of the items that are waiting to be received. So it'll show you, it could be one item, it could be 100 items. And what you need to do through that process is flag the items that you need to receive. There is an option if you wanted to set it where it will automatically add all of the items onto the receiver. We actually disabled that because we wanted to go through and verify every item. So once we flag the items, we click on the Done button, and it will add that item onto your actual receiving order. As with every other thing in Quantum, your hotkeys are going to be your best friend during the receiving process. It'll take your receiving time, it'll cut it in half just by using your hotkeys. Add, flag, done. 3 keys is much quicker than having to go over and worry about your mouse and move everything through. So once we have that added on, that's where we can see our receiving scheduler. We have this just in Crystal Reports, so we can go in there, and as soon as we know that we're done adding all the items into our pre-receiving line, we just open up our custom Crystal Reports, print it out. So this will show us what's sold, what's going to stock. Within our sold items, we've got it broken down by our different freight carriers because they come at different times throughout the day. So this allows us to prioritize everything based on those freight pickups. So the main receiving screen, how many people actually use the receiving module currently? So probably about half of everybody. How many of your screens look like this? Not very many. One of the things, if you don't already have it, get your Forms Designer. I know they're not selling Screen Scripter anymore, but I think they're doing the Screen Editor. It'll be a lot of the same type of functionality. That's going to allow you to put the colors on there. That's going to allow you to move fields around as you need to. And that's what allows us to customize our receiving process in order to make sure that the guys follow the right process. So we'll flag things in red. Red for us means that's a very important field that we need to make sure and capture. Yellow, it's important most of the time. If it's green, there's got to be something on it. The other thing is we have checkboxes that we've added in here. So these are our actual receiving requirements based on our quality system. So it's something that we have to track on every receiving order. We have to go through this process. So it allows our guys, instead of having to print out a receiving checklist and go over to the printer, pick it up, and then grab their pen, oh, it ran out of ink, let me go grab another pen, and start going through and checking the box for this one or unchecking it for that one. They can just check the box right in Quantum as they're going through the receiving process. The other good thing is nobody has to worry about tallying up those results at the end of the week, end of the month. Everything's captured right as soon as they hit OK here. Some of the receiving statuses, I don't know if this pointer will point up over here or not, but those two areas right there, we're going to touch on those in a minute, but these are the status codes that we use through our QC hold status to drive various functions, business processes, and quality metrics. So as we look at some of the basic item data that we're capturing, again, I touched on the red and the yellow. We're looking at the part number that we purchased. Does it match the part number that we received? Is the condition correct? Make sure that we're putting that into valid locations, choosing the correct consignment code, entering the trace tag by, a lot of the basic information. We do want to focus on expiration dates. If we have shelf life material, we're able to track that right at that point in time. And then finally, what's the quantity that we're receiving? Is that matching what we're supposed to be receiving? Some of the miscellaneous data that we're going to capture here. What is our status? What is our disposition? That's going to allow us to track it at various phases through the receiving process. Maybe it's an order with 20 line items on it, and our purchasing guy wants to know, hey, how long is it going to be before we get through that process? You can manage all of that through your statuses. The disposition we're using is going to be our actual, the reasons that it's rejected. We can put it in any of our warehouses, whether it's going to our warehouse in Florida, our warehouse in the UK, Singapore. You're actually able to receive it into one of those locations right on the fly. Track your 8130 part cert numbers, your remarks, engine serial numbers, manufacturer lots. And the status codes, these are our rejection codes. Was it a damaged part? Was the paperwork missing, paperwork discrepant, wrong part number? A lot of the basic things. You can add as many in there. You can keep it as simple as you want. This is going to allow you to track, at the end of the day, how often does a part coming in from that vendor, is it missing paperwork? You're able to start to track vendor reliability and performance. How many orders out of every 10 orders? Is it 1 out of every 10, 5 out of every 10? What percentage of their total orders actually ends up getting rejected and causing pain somewhere else down the road? Maybe you need to pad that into your lead time when you're quoting your customers. How long does it take you to get it corrected? So the document imaging, as that gets into the receiving, as you have your item on the receiving order, you're going to have your images. You can add all of your documents in right at the same time. The other thing you can add into it is going to be what we call our QC hold form. So as our guys, they enter in their findings, instead of writing it down on the paper, they'll enter it into the findings, and they're able to just print that form out, and they can put that form with the part. They can scan that in there. They can reprint it at any given time. So just to review some of the data that we're capturing, the check boxes that I had in there, again, this is just a mirror of our quality system. We're looking at, did we need to do a hazmat inspection? Did we need to do an ESD inspection? Was there damage on the part? Did the part properly have caps and plugs installed? Did we perform a visual inspection on the part? Maybe it was a drop shipment, so we didn't do a visual inspection. Was the part number and serial number correct on all the part and all the documents in between? Were there signatures on all the certifications? Did you have a non-incident statement from all your suppliers? Did you verify it against your PO requirements? Did you perform a SUP inspection? Did you get all of your documents scanned in? Is the part number on the part? Does it have OEM packaging? And you're capturing all of this information down at the user level that received that product. So you can run a report every month and figure out, well, how good did this particular user perform these functions? Some of the table-driven fields that we're capturing is going to be our status or disposition, the condition, location, consignment codes, and trace fields. And then other data fields that we're looking at is quantity received, quantity that was on the pack slip, so that we can determine, did we get short shipped anything? Tag by information, tag date, manufacture date, and expiration date. Some of the things that we're also looking to improve our internal communication. Are there receiving instructions? Are the buyers trying to give our guys in the warehouse instructions on what to do with this part once they do that receiving? Are there any remarks? Maybe there's certain information that they want to have put in there that they need to pass through onto the stock line. Any of your PO line item notes are going to pass all the way through into the stock line. So if you're good and you have your processes set up right on the purchasing side, everything will fall through into the inventory side of the business as well. Out of the people that use receiving, are you familiar with unknown receipts? Show of hands that use unknown receipts. So probably about 10% of everybody that raised their hands before. If you're not using this, this is a great tool. It will actually help, if you build reports around it, it'll help you keep track of everything that's in your warehouse from the day that it comes in. The purpose of it, it's used for inventory that's delivered and you don't know where it came from. You're able to, it might have come in without documentation, so it doesn't reference your purchase order, it doesn't reference your repair order, it came in from somebody that you don't know who it came from. It could be the wrong part number was delivered. Any other scenario that you come across on a daily basis that currently you're probably putting it on a shelf or you're setting it on a supervisor's desk so they can go research it. But what you're not doing is tracking that inventory through your system from the day that it hit the dock. So this is going to allow you to add the part, and then you can initiate searches. It'll search, is there any open transactions for that particular part number? And it'll help you locate it so that then you can convert it at a later point in time. So for us, this allows us to track it. It allows us to report. We can put inventory into valid locations even though it's not really in our inventory as of yet. We can attach the images into it so that when we need to research it, if we pass it on to our purchasing team, hey, here's what came in. Maybe we need to pass it to our sales team. Here's the documentation that the customer provided. You're able to have all of that done at that receiving inspection time, putting into your unknown receipts without finalizing anything at this point in time. Maybe you need to create contact records to track everything while it's going through that process so that you know you don't have anybody creating redundant steps and trying to research this. At any time, you can easily convert it into a receiving order. You can actually print out your own barcode label to put it on, out there so you can even track it while it's on the shelf so that it doesn't get lost or misidentified while it's out there. And then here's just a little snapshot of the unknown receivers. So, you can see this is probably 20% of our open unknown receivers because we use it for another process as well. But if you can't see it in back, some of the things it gives you is it'll give you the customer that it came in from. You can track airway bill that it came in on, part number, description, serial number, quantity. Any of you that do stuff by aircraft, you could actually track it in by aircraft at that time as well. Some of the enhancements that we've requested is perhaps maybe you do have a customer PO. They reference their customer PO. It just so happens you don't have an open sales order for it or an open work order for it, so all of that needs to happen. Do you want to stop everything you're doing, kick that off to your sales team, let them create the sales order just so you can receive the core, and then come back and redo everything? Where do you put that part in the meantime? By having this on the front end, you're able to create your unknown receipt, you're able to enter in your customer PO number, finalize your basic receiving inspection, then send it off to sales so that they can finish their part of the process. Once they're done, we just convert that into a receiving order and allows us to finish the process, but we've already done half the work for it. Currently what we use the serial number field, and we use a colon to separate serial number from customer PO number. The reports that we have are looking for that delimiter so that we can separate those as separate columns. It's a tedious process, and we have to make sure that our guys use a colon. They can't use a semicolon. We have to make sure they put the serial number and then the customer PO number and not vice versa. So there's workarounds, just not very friendly workarounds. So we felt that was a good enhancement to add. Another one would be notes and findings. If you're going to go through that receiving inspection process, why not go ahead and figure out, oh, this part was damaged, it's missing half of the part, or we didn't have any paperwork with it, we're missing transfers of ownerships, whatever it might be. This would allow you to track all of that at that point in time so that when you do go convert that into your receiving order, you've got everything you need to finish it up. So the unknown receipts, very basic. Company, airway bill, part number, condition, warehouse, location, and then your quantity and serial number. And now we'll highlight it for you. Has anybody used Screen Designer before? Control F7. It's a pretty handy tool. This is what's going to allow you to customize Quantum to some of your needs. You're going to be able to remove fields that you just don't want to confuse people with. There's a lot of fields, and they do a good job of trying to put things out there that everybody can use for their business, but a lot of it you might not really want. Rearrange the fields to fit what are your processes. Make it easy for your guys to find exactly what they need. Rearrange the tab order. Maybe you don't want it to go from here to here to here to here. You can set that tab order to go exactly the way you want to. Relabel any of your field headings. Maybe you don't want to call it condition. Maybe you want to shorten it up and just put COND. Add color to it. Add new fields such as your checkboxes. All of that you're going to do through the Screen Designer. On the Screen Scripter, this is an example of some of the back-end checks and balances that we do to ensure that data gets entered correctly at the point in time the user is actually entering the data. This is where we make mandatory fields. This is where we restrict table values. Quantum has default values for trace. Well, we don't want that default value to actually be to go into our stock receiving, so if they don't change the trace table, they're not going to be able to hit OK. It's going to say go back and update your trace. We verify costing, whether it's on repair orders or whether it's on core receipts. We verify costing at that point in time to make sure that our receivers don't finalize something that might not have been done correctly on the purchasing side. And we'll use it for temporary bug fixes. It's not the best way, but it allows us to continue to proceed through our business while that bug starts to get fixed. Some examples for any of the techies that want some of the code. If you do have Screen Scripter, here's something that's just doing a pretty simple, if this is the case, then raise this message or show this message. So the three examples I have here, they're all raise examples. That's going to prevent you from finalizing that particular transaction. So the first one is it'll restrict condition codes. We don't use all the condition codes that are available, and every time you do an update, the conditions that you might have changed or deleted come back. So this allows us to say this condition is not acceptable. Maybe it's the same thing for the search source or my checklist. My checklist defaults to null values. I don't want my guys to be able to hit OK if they never checked and unchecked a box. In their minds, if it's empty, then that means that it's not applicable. In Quantum's mind, it means that you didn't check true or false. You're actually null. So I have to make it tell them you have to go through and check or uncheck the box as applicable. Some more examples that we have of the Screen Designer. I've got one for brokered repair receiving. If anybody does brokered repairs, if you put an accumulated cost on that brokered repair sales order line item and you bring it in, all of a sudden you've added inventory cost when it should be a $0 stock line. So we've got something in here that says if it's a brokered repair and the cost is greater than 0, don't allow the receiving guy to to hit OK. Notify of potential order errors on the repair order side. Even though there's a flag for $0 repair orders, sometimes it works for us and sometimes it doesn't. This one works for us every single time. It'll at least pop up the message, hey, check with repairs, make sure that this should be a $0 repair. And forced consignment codes. We use the stock category codes on our purchase orders. So depending on that stock category code, we can drive our receiving department where if it's this particular stock category code, it has to go into this particular consignment code. So it allows us to drive that part of the process. So how do we simplify the inspection process and capture key quality points? Well, we're going to automatically document nonconformances by using our status codes. We're going to eliminate manual data entry. I've been involved in quality systems where you have a separate log that you have to fill out for every nonconformance. And you're either manually going in and writing it over, or you've got a manual spreadsheet that you're tracking, and then when your auditor comes in and they start to audit you, you've got to go pull all of this information. You can enter all of that during that receiving process. And when your auditor comes in, you've got your crystal report. You're just reporting on data that's already in there. Nobody had to go back and track additional information. You start to standardize what was your reason for rejection. Standardize that to just focus on the key points that you need to track for your business. Eliminate manual inspection sheets, less paper. Automatically track your nonconformances start to finish. If you have the contact module, that's the next best addition to getting all of your quality stuff tracked from receiving all the way through the final disposition. If it goes on to QC hold, you're able to then create your contact manager and dive into further ways that you're going to track it. Maybe you've got correspondence that needs to happen back and forth to the vendor. Maybe you need to do an internal corrective action. Whatever that might be, now you can handle all of that through the contact module. So some of the reporting we're doing, you can easily determine vendor performance based on standardized processes. If you're capturing that information in real time, you're going to be able to have automated reports that are constantly going out and telling you how are your vendors doing. Utilize the receiving status codes or disposition codes to categorize your rejections. Let Quantum help you in monitoring and controlling nonconformances. Using Event Manager, you can figure out which contact records are still open. That's going to let you know these things are still pending. Incorporate the Event Manager and automate monthly supplier scorecards to be sent out to your vendors. Let your vendors know how they're doing so they can help themselves in that process. So the Event Manager, some of the internal communication things that we're looking at. Every time we put something on QC hold, this message goes out to our quality team, it goes out to the buyer, and it goes out to a team of managers involved. It lets them know that a part came in from a particular vendor on this particular order number. Here's the part number, serial number, quantity, and here's what's wrong with it. So that way our quality team, without having to create another email, without having to go document anything, they've notified the buyer without ever picking up a phone, without ever leaving Quantum. They just did their part of the job. The receiving findings and details that are on your receiving order are going to automatically populate that particular email. We've got our QC hold form. This goes with the part the entire time, so that way at any given time if somebody goes out into the warehouse and they look at that QC hold, they don't have to worry about going back figuring out why is that part rejected. We do the same thing for anybody that sends stuff out for repair. You might buy something as removed and you've got to send it out to the repair station. Again, internal communication. Our process sets it up so that the buyer puts a few notes in there. That then gives our receiving guys instructions on, I need to put this on the RO cart. And as soon as they hit finalize, this email goes out to our repair administrators. So now they're notified they need to take this part, create a repair order to this particular vendor. It's going to take this amount of time. It's going to cost this amount of money. Nobody had to talk to each other. They did everything in their own process, and the system automated everything for them. So I think I'm just going to beat that 3-minute mark back there. But if you need any more information on receiving inspection, the event manager, contact manager on any part of this, definitely go into Q Group website. There's our form for receiving. Subscribe to that. That'll let you know any kind of questions that people have. You're going to see the answers. Make sure you go to Component Control's website. They've got videos, tutorials, everything out there. If you don't have Event Manager or something similar to that, if you are serious at all on trying to integrate quality factors or even streamline your business, you need to get the Event Manager. The endless possibilities with that are absolutely amazing. Forms Designer, I've heard people, it's cumbersome, but you can customize anything. A novice can learn it, copy, paste. You'd be amazed at what you can do. We've got a lot of tools for the Forms Designer out on the Q Group website. There's a whole form designated to it. Gives you a lot of the Delphi code to be able to go in and add fields that don't appear to be available. Screen Designer, customize Quantum for the needs of your facility. It is your software, it's your company. Customize it for your needs. And Screen Scripter or the Screen Editor, there are pros and cons. It is a very powerful way to guide your employees, but it is something that you need to make sure you understand before you implement it. And I think there is a basic Screen Scripter. I think they call it Screen Editor that is being offered now. So hopefully you're going to take home a basic introduction to the receiving inspection, how to stay organized by incorporating unknown receipts, streamline your nonconformances by eliminating redundant manual data entry and reporting, and simplify your receiving inspection process by using one standard module. Instead of having to go to a PO to receive, an RO to receive, or a sales order to receive, you can do all of it through the receiving module. Standardize that receiving inspection screen so the guys are always looking at the same thing to be able to enter in their information. And then automate your internal and external communication by using the Event Manager. And just in time, time is up. So you got probably 2 minutes to ask questions if there are any questions. Yes. There's a microphone coming for you right here.
What are some of the means that you audit your receiving process? How do you know the guys scanned the right documents to the right place? How do you know nothing got missed? If you're going to go paperless and use this as a receiving process, how do you make sure that you set up an audit process that maybe the FAA would accept?
Well, a lot of that's going to be done through our annual self-audit that we do for our own quality system. As you walk through all of your processes, you're going to have to do sample testing. Whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, you're going to have to go through and audit your own processes as in with anything else and find out, are they getting the right documentation scanned in? We'll have it where we don't want pricing scanned. Black it out. Whatever you might need, but it's going to be, every business should have their own way to audit their own processes. Did that answer that question for you?
Yeah, I guess. Did you set up any type of crystal reports or any kind of things that would help the audit process to be more automated?
Great question. That touches a little bit on Contact Manager. If you set up a Contact Manager every year for your self-audit, you can have your tasks all defined, and as you go through that task, you're able to track it, add document images into your Contact Manager. You can set that up however you need to. You might end up with one contact module, one contact record for every step of your self-audit. So various ways of doing that, and then you do reporting off of that. So that's kind of how we track that part of it, is through Contact Manager. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you, and hopefully nobody fell asleep during it.